What is up, guys? Welcome to my review for The Flash, Season 4, Episode 22, titled Think Fast. And for this review, there is a lot to unpack. I don't know how long this video will be, but I wager it'll be a pretty long video just because there are a lot of things to talk about from this episode. First of all, Diggle's appearance in the episode. He was slated to appear in this episode and was in a bunch of promotional photos, which was kind of a ruse, because he was in literally one scene that I remember. John Diggle was in one scene. David Ramsey was in two scenes, the actor who plays him, but one of those scenes it was DeVoe as Diggle, so he was only in like one scene, I think, and that's kind of disappointing, but at the same time, I think it actually makes sense in terms of the story, in terms of Diggle not really. He added a lot to the episode. I think the scenes he was in, where Diggle was in, the scene Diggle was in, and the scenes David Ramsey were in were both really great scenes. So he added a lot to the episode without taking away from the episode, without like feeling like a forced appearance. I felt like his appearance was very natural, and it just came naturally to the story. And then when DeVoe was as as Diggle, that scene was amazing, and I'm not even kidding, probably the best The Thinker scene we have ever seen. It's just him tearing through the Argus facility. It's not at him as David Ramsey, that's after, or being played by David Ramsey, that's after he's being played by David. I keep on saying that. After he's Diggle, this is what happens, and it's amazing. So it's not really as Diggle, but it is afterwards, and it's great. It's something that I wish we would have seen more of, just him tearing through people not being able to touch him like normal civilian people. They're not really civilian people, but it's different from when he's just not from when like Team Flash can't touch him. It's different because it's just very satisfying seeing this villain just tear through people like this. It's just a very awesome scene. So that whole thing was him just getting Fallout, which kind of made the whole episode where they're going to put Fallout in the Argus facility kind of obsolete, because I mean they put him in Argus and that did nothing. They did not protect him. So that episode kind of was pointless, but that episode was I don't remember if it was a great episode, and I think it actually was a pretty good episode, but this fact that he so easily got Fallout was a cool scene, but it kind of makes that episode even more pointless, or not even more, it made it pointless. But everything that followed that, and that was awesome. Almost everything that followed that in this episode was great. This was definitely a very great episode. So this episode saw the return of Flash Time, and the whole storyline was Barry training Cisco and Caitlin into using Flash Time, and then to use Flash Time in order to save those hostages. First of all, I liked how they came up with the idea of using Flash Time to save those hostages. I thought that was great. I did kind of not like how they said how they made it so much more complicated than it needed to be, because they said that for some reason Flash couldn't go in there and just save the hostages with Flash Time, because Flash Time, we saw in episode 15, it literally stops time. Like, it makes it go so slow that it's literally stopped for the duration of Flash Time. So it doesn't really make sense how they said they needed an extra 2 people to save those people and get them out of there. But at the same time, it was a very cool use of the ability, and I like the fact that they're using the ability again. I hope they use it more often, just because whenever they're not using it, it does not make any sense. So I like the fact that they use it, and all the scenes with Flash Time in this episode were great. The arguments between Barry and Cisco were great moments. There's just a lot of great moments in this episode. It was one of the better episodes of the season, and like I said, the argument between Barry and Cisco saying that Barry can't decide whether or not he should train them based off of what happened to Ralph, which I think will be undone in the next episode. But I love those arguments. I thought they were great, and the use of Flash Time in this episode was also really, really, really great. It looked really cool. That's something about Flash Time. It makes everything around it just looks cool visually. It's a very captivating ability to look at. It's just a really cool ability to use on the show, so I like the fact that they used it, and it just looked really cool, and it brought up some really great arguments, and it brought up Caitlin's past, which is like the best thing about this Caitlin / Killer Frost storyline, about her remembering her past. They kind of retconned the fact that instead of getting her powers from the particle accelerator explosion, she got her powers from some unknown source from the past, maybe from like genetics. Maybe her mother or father had ice powers. Maybe in this continuity she's going to be like the daughter of one of the ice villains from the comics, like Icicle. I think that would be a cool idea, because we know that there were metahumans in the past, like the JSA. So if they use something like that and say that Caitlin's like the descendant of Icicle, who Icicle is a JSA villain, so, or Icicle Senior at least, so that would be a very cool twist on her powers. Also, it's more comic accurate for her to have her abilities from her past, from her childhood, and not from some particle accelerator explosion. So that's cool as well. I like the fact that they're opening up the possibility for the meta gene instead of just people getting meta powers from the particle accelerator explosions. I like how there are other sources for superpowers in this universe now. Like there was Caitlyn, and there was I think that Wally got his powers like in the Flashpoint universe from his car, something like that. I think it was also with particle accelerator, but it was I don't really know. I like the fact that they're opening up to other possibilities other than the particle accelerator with Caitlyn remembering her past, and that's definitely the best thing about this storyline, and really the only good thing about this storyline so far. The Caitlyn / Killer Frost storyline of her, the best thing is just her remembering her past. So this episode had two side storylines. That was, first one was Joe and Cecile, which wasn't, neither of the side storylines were amazing or anything, but neither of them were bad either. I thought the Joe and Cecile storyline was just a very funny and entertaining storyline. It was actually just really entertaining. That is it. For some reason, it was really entertaining. It really set up the next episode for the fact that Cecile will almost definitely give birth in the next episode, as because like the mystery girl said that she's going to give birth on the same date as the season finale, and we know for a fact, or basically, that she's from the future, so she's basically gonna be right, almost for sure. So it's setting that up, which I like, and this whole storyline was really funny and entertaining. Her like using other people's personalities was just a very funny thing to watch, in my opinion. And then there was the second storyline of Iris and Harry, which wasn't bad either. It wasn't amazing or anything, but also definitely was not a bad storyline. I actually like the interactions between Iris and Harry. Harry seems to be getting a lot of interactions with like every character, because sometimes characters just don't interact with each other, and Harry seems to be interacting with everybody, even like Cecile and Iris. Mainly it's Cisco, obviously, but it's also other characters which I like to see. And Harry's dumbness really, or his dumbness really hit a fever pitch in this episode, and it's very entertaining to watch, although I really hope it ends soon, and it probably will end soon, because now it seems everybody in the world will become dumb in the next episode, which I will talk about in a little bit. But both of these storylines were definitely not bad. They didn't take away from the episode either. They were both entertaining side plots that both kind of intercepted with the main storyline of Joe and Cecile, with Cecile connecting with Killer Frost, or Caitlin Snow, and Iris and Harry bringing Marlize to the good side, which I will talk about right now. So this episode, Marlize was finally turned to the good side, and there is only one episode left in the season, so I guess we're only seeing one episode of her fighting against DeVoe, which is kind of good in my opinion. I expected her to actually like die in this episode. I expected her to have a bigger role in this episode and the last episode, but she didn't at all. She didn't have any role in the last episode. In this episode, she had a very small role, but she will probably have a huge role in the next episode, and I bet she will also die in the next episode, because I don't see a reason she wouldn't die in the next episode. So, but this whole her turning thing was actually done really well. In my opinion, it was set up really well throughout the season. Of you see all the times that she's doubting DeVoe becoming more and more cold towards her, and you see her transformation to good, and how she actually always believed that DeVoe was wrong. And I like the way that Iris convinced her to turn. I liked everything about Marlize turning in this episode. It was just done really well throughout the season and in this episode, and hopefully it adds up to an emotional and climactic finale in the next episode, which, going off the trailer, will probably be a very good season finale, just going off the trailer, which we'll talk about more in my trailer breakdown. But moving on to the big, huge moment of the episode, which I think is awesome. I think it's awesome that they actually went through with it, was the enlightenment, and the quote-unquote enlightenment happening at the end of the episode. Before I talk about the ending for this episode, I want to talk about the ending for the storyline, for the Flash Time storyline, where Barry ran into the portal, which was, it all looked really great, and then he ran up and destroyed the satellite. It was a great ending to that whole thing. And then there was this argument between Barry and DeVoe, the Thinker, and it was great. It was this real moral battle between who both parts think they're right. Obviously, we know who's right because he's the protagonist. But DeVoe kind of brought up some good points, which is what makes a pretty good villain most of the time. Guy who thinks he's right and brings up some good points sometimes, like Thanos or Killmonger in the MCU, and that makes her a really good villain most of the time. So I like this. I wish we would have seen more of these moral battles and arguments between Barry and DeVoe. It would have been so nice to see, but it was great in this episode. But moving on to the ending of the episode. So the Enlightenment happened at the end of the episode, and I like I said, I love the fact that they actually went through with it, because if they didn't go through with it, it would have just felt very unsatisfying, because you have this whole storyline building up throughout the season of the villain hatching this huge plan, and usually throughout the Arrowverse seasons, you see when they actually succeed, at least a little bit, at least initially if they succeed, it's a lot, the seasons are a lot, they're just a lot better when the villain succeeds throughout the season, like at the end of the season, and then the finale, the hero gets back at them. You just look at throughout the Arrowverse season, it always works better that way. So I like the fact that the Enlightenment actually happened. I don't know if it'll affect anyone, just because looking at Harry, it took him a couple weeks, or like a month to become fully dumb. So I don't think it'll have any effect on the characters. In this episode, I probably will, just for dramatic effect. Like, Barry will, like, everyone will become stupider and stupider around Barry until he goes into DeVoe's mind. Spoiler for the next episode from the trailer. But that doesn't really make any sense, because Harry didn't become dumb for like a couple weeks, like I said. But it's probably just going to be explained by the fact that it's just different circumstances that are making them stupid, per se. Also, this Enlightenment may, like, reverse Harry's condition, who knows. But again, I love the fact that they actually went through with it, and it made for a really awesome ending to the episode. In conclusion, this episode was great, and a great return to form from the last couple episodes, which were all, I don't remember if I gave any of them higher than 9 out of 10, which kind of sucks, considering it's near the end of the season and you want to have 9s and 9s out of 10s, but this episode definitely is. The only thing keeping it from a 10 out of 10 is the not amazing story subplots. They are good, they're actually great for the most part, but they're not amazing. And an episode like this season, for the 10 out of 10 episode so far, the only one I think was Enter Flash Time, which didn't have any subplots, and the main plot was awesome, so it just got a 10 out of 10. But this storyline, this episode has a great main storyline and has an amazing main storyline and 2 great subplots. So it's not a 10 out of 10, but it's really, really close. So I'll give this episode a 9.9 out of 10. But let me know what you thought about the episode in the comments down below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.